everybody, it's Brent, Central Arkansas. Today's video is about managing the growth of close planted plants, vegetable plants, in my raised beds. And I planted densely with the purpose of doing what I'm about to do and what I'm about to show you, and hopefully gain a little better crop that way. So what I've got here is a winter squash. It's my most aggressive winter squash grower. It's called Pruning, and it is growing down and out and just all over the place. So I'm going to fix that today, and I've got my tools for that. I had just finished the overhead trellis above me. I wanted to finish that before I started doing this. So I've got my crate of tools here, and it's what I carry around. And this is like a milk crate, I believe. I'm not even sure if they use it for milk anymore, but anyway, it's one of those types of crates. And I took a PVC here, thin wall 3/4 inch, and I zip tied it to the ends here. And I keep a pair of scissors. I keep my favorite trimmers in it, as well as a Sharpie marker for marking my breeding work. I've got some organza bags for covering flowers to prevent accidental pollination, so I can hand pollinate. What else have I got here? I've got my tool that I'm going to be using today. I'll set that aside. And the tape that goes with the tool. And my gloves. I've got, what else have I got in here? Oh, this is some pelletized lime I haven't taken out from my last job. And of course some, let me get this back on here, some tomato clips, which I use in everything. Right here. All right, so I'll set this to the side. I'm going to get the tools here, and in the container here with the organza bags, I've got a little bottle of hand sanitizer, and I use this not only for my hands but for my tools. So I'll put a little bit on my hands, rub it around. It's needed more for tomatoes and peppers, mostly tomatoes, than these squash, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway. And it's just a good way to make sure that there's no passing of disease while I do this. All right, this tool I've got here is a tool that if you click it once, it pulls tape out. If you put a plant around it like this, it closes over and it staples it together to any type of thing you like. I use it for the trellises. So now that we've explained that, this little piece here has got I call it tape. It's a plastic, and it's routed up and through this assembly here, and that's what does the work. So let me get situated here for a little bit, make sure that you can see me. And I'm going to start over here, and I'm going to take out some of these lower branches. I'm going to work from left to right, and these squash, they have tendrils on them, and they're grabbing the beans in some cases, so you got to be careful not to damage them. Before I get started though, I'm going to go get a bucket so I can put the vegetable waste, the cuttings if you will, in that. So I doubt the camera is, yeah, it's not low enough. I'm looking at the little screen on the front there. It's a smaller screen, but I'm putting the waste, the pruning leaves in that bucket. So I'm cutting off the lower, and I'm going to take off the little side shoots. In a tomato, you call this a sucker. I can go ahead and call it a sucker here too. These are small enough to probably pinch off, but sometimes when you pinch in certain types of crops, you'll end up doing more damage. Especially taking off a growing tip. Now here's a good size growing side shoot right here. And see what that would do is it would just grow on the ground. It would take up more nutrients, and it would, if I were to go vertical with it, it would take up too much of the trellis space. So I went ahead and removed that growing tip. Now let me look along the line here. And I think, yeah, this one's ready to put up. Put that back in my little case here. So I'm going to tilt the camera this way a little bit, make sure that you can see what I'm doing here. So you can tell that this one is not super long, but I see a little baby squash on here, and that makes me happy. It always makes me happy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and I'm going to put it up against an area, activate, go around it, and secure it just like that. I'll do it in a couple places. Not sure if you can see it up here yet. It's best to do it just below a leaf nodule if you can. And this one doesn't have this tendril's not grabbing, so I'll go ahead and do it a little lower as well. And we will get this leaf out of the way, and then we'll do it around this one. So you got to be careful, because this assembly here, right here, that grabs the tape, if you don't go past the stem, it'll just chew that stem right in half. So you got to be careful. I've done that a few times. So this one's done. Let me see my hands in it so you can see it. Now we'll go to the next one. And I'm going to take off some of the bigger leaves here on the bottom. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to open up the space here for the green beans. So this is right here, the main growing stem. So I'll take this off. This is a sucker, if you will, another growing tip. And I'll take off these lowers. Now, taking off the lower leaves not only provides airflow to the beans, also lets in sunlight. And so the beans could have some evening sunlight. You can probably see it coming through now a little bit. I have to be careful here not to prune the growing tip, because I've done that so many times, and it's so deadgum heartbreaking to either kill a plant or make it start over from a bud or from a growing I'm gonna leave on those little flowers there, and I'm gonna take off one more. Now I'm taking off a lot of the photosynthesis capability right now, and when you're growing up a trellis like I'm doing here, there has to be some compromise in the pruning that maximizes the production as well as the space. So we're going vertical. I've got a piece over here. It's grabbing in several locations, so I'm going to cut it loose. There's a little growing tip right here too. I'm going to go ahead and take out. It's grabbing over here. That'd become a mess. Look at this tendril here. This is a little aggressive sucker. All right, so now I got another growing tip here. I'm only going to do a couple for you, and then I'll bring you back when I'm done, because this is repetitious. It's the same old stuff here, so you don't need to see every bit of it. And I won't lose you after 3 or 4. You'll stay probably longer in the video to something new. So I'm going to go ahead and let me go ahead and take this one up. I'll remove this growing tip. Let me make sure you're in the camera here. Take out that growing tip. I'm going to pull this up. It is grabbing another plant over here already. Normally I'd be on the other side. Of this plant, because I'm bending over, and it's putting stress on my body, which means I have more chance for mistakes. Okay, so I'm gonna first pull this up to about the right height. Let me bring you upwards a little bit in case you can't see. I'm pull it up to about the right height here, and we're gonna secure it right here. And then I'm gonna pull it right underneath this one here. Oh, sometimes this thing gets stuck. Anyway, I'll pull this up and I'll secure it here. And at the very tip here, look at that, it's almost to the top of that trellis right there. This plant I'm doing right now, and the one on the very end, it has smaller leaves because it's a different type of squash. It is I have a video on it called A New Kind of Butternut, ? Or something to that effect, where I grew it out last year. And it was a very big Tahitian melon cross that I made with my cultivar called Butterball. And so I made that cross, and then it got pollinated, but I don't know what it got pollinated to. I'm getting an idea now because I can see the fruit on this one, so I think it'll be interesting. The parent of that squash, the one the seed actually came from, was really big. It was probably 20-25 pounds, but anyway, you can find that video if you want to look for it. So what I ended up doing was removing a lot of the foliage down there, because I wanted you to see how it opens up everything here underneath. And that's going to be important as the days get longer, because I don't want any shading to happen. Now as these get taller, I won't trim them back anymore, the bottom leaves, until they get longer and they start to go across the top, because I want the photosynthesis of these nice gorgeous big leaves, as well as providing growth to these green beans. And when they get taller, this older foliage is going to start to die off anyway. So what I can do is I can trim that a little bit as they grow. So maybe every foot or two, I'll trim off a couple leaves, and eventually this whole part trellis here will be almost empty. It'll just be the vines going up, and the squash themselves will be growing over the top, and hopefully dangling down where I can pick it easy. So I'm going to finish up these. I'm going to put them on the trellis, and I'll give you a quick view of it. I'll show you a couple different views. This is the front side, and you can tell by the leaves that were removed, this is a completely different animal now. And you can see the sun hitting the beans from the late afternoon sun there. It looks more orderly, more airflow. Everything's good now. Let me take you around to the back and show you a couple things and talk about a couple different things. All right, the first thing is you can see that one of the vines is already at the top trellis, and it'll be a week from now, it'll be 3 or 4 foot longer growing across the top here, and that's just going to make me a happy camper. I like the RV, so I use that saying a lot. Okay, so this end and the other end down there is a different type of squash. The ones here are the big winter squashes. And I wanted to show you here a couple things. Now you can weave the vine in between the trellis here, and that might work if you do it like this when it's tiny, okay? But if you do it anytime later, you're liable to bend it and even break it off, because if you've trimmed these tips before, you know they just snap off real easy. cucurbits are fragile and they will flat out snap. So I was attempting to lift this gently and I still got a bend in it. Now I think that'll be okay. I don't think it broke through, and that'll heal up and continue to grow nicely for me. So just a quick view on the back side here. You can see, let me see if I see a little baby squash. Yeah, I guess a baby squash right there behind my finger. And there's one lower on the vine here. I think I know what it crossed with because it's productive. I think this one crossed with honey nut. I'll go ahead and tell you because I've got two on it at that close a distance. But over here, the Curin, this is going to be a somewhat larger fruit. K-U-R-I-N, you can look it up. I got a sucker here I need to remove. I'll go ahead and try to just pull it off with my hands there. So I can do that. I grab it from this end tight and then I just pinch it like this with my finger. Okay, so you can see a little baby fruit there. And I got one over here that's going to be open tomorrow, the next day at the latest. This one's kind of iffy. Yeah, this one will be open tomorrow. It's already starting to separate a little bit here. So this will be a big, huge, beautiful flower. Unfortunately, which is kind of odd, usually all the male flowers start and they'll open up and there's no females to pollinate. And I've got a bunch of males here, down here, and then I've got the one female. And the way you can tell the difference is because it has a baby on it. If it has a baby on it, whatever it is, a cucumber, squash, winter squash, whatever it is, watermelon, melons, all of it, if it has a baby on it, it's a female flower. If it does not, if it looks like this, no baby, that's a male flower. When they open up, it's most of the time it's hard to tell the difference between the two without looking a little closer. Now the only way this will get pollinated and start growing is if a male flower transfers the pollen to it. If that happens, this will start growing, and usually bees do that. I, however, as a breeder, I bag the ones I want to keep, so no insects. I'll know exactly what I crossed it with, so I'll bag the male and the female, and then after I pollinate it by hand, I'll bag it again for 2-3 days and wait for that flower to make sure that no pollinators, it's taken, in other words, so, and it'll start growing. Now these are my cucumbers. I've got what I've got here is Bet Alpha and Emerald Green, which is mine. Sweet Emerald, Emerald Green, Emerald Sweet. I'll get there. It's newly named. Anyway, it's also a Parthenocarp variety, and it doesn't look like it's ready to vine or ready to put up yet, but there are some that are growing there. And I want to give you something besides squash to look at in this video as well. Right now the cucumbers are not bothering the beans. They have to be helped to the trellis. Actually, most vining cucurbits. And cucurbit is a family that covers squash and melons and watermelons and cucumbers and all kinds of similar type gourds, pumpkins, zucchini, yellow squash, all that are cucurbit family. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this side similar to what I did over there, but this will be quicker and I don't need to videotape. It's the same process. Here are the cucumbers. I got a Bet Alpha. The Bet Alpha does not grow as aggressively as the Emerald Sweet does. Emerald Sweet is a larger slicing cucumber. Both are parthenocarpic supposedly. I got the seeds for Bet Alpha from Baker Creek, and they say it's parthenocarpic. So I've got one there. It's not tall enough to add to the trellis. I got another Bet Alpha there, also not tall enough to add to the trellis. Same here and same here. When they get tall enough, I'll put them on. Like I've got 3 here of mine, Emerald Sweet. There, and there. I had a 4th one, but it died, so I planted a tomato in its spot, and that's a cherry tomato. This is the final squash I'm doing today, and it is called Sweet Meat, and it's a larger winter squash. Not really a pumpkin, but different places in the world, like Australia, they call them pumpkins. That's a whole nother subject on the various types of gourds and marrows and just all the different kinds of what they name it. But anyway, similar family. But this is a Maxima, C. Maxima. It's a species in cucurbits squash. The one I did first was also a Maxima. I've got here, these are honey nut. Honey nuts are C. machata, relative to the Maxima. The Maxima and the machata can cross, but it's extremely rare and it requires a number of pollinations. I actually tried a year or two ago to cross a Maxima and a machata, and I couldn't get it to do it. I just pollinated the dickens out of the flowers every single time and they wouldn't do it. But some experts know how to do it, and I've given up on it. I don't think I need to do it anyway. So anyway, this is a big old mess. I'm going to take care of it like I did the cucumber and the curing squash I've showed you already. There's actually 3 sweetmeats in here. The outside, the middle, and again the outside. These 2 are a breeding of mine, and that one right there are a breeding of mine where I took Feroce Delicate and I crossed it with Winter Luxury Pie. And oh my gosh, this thing has been aggressive. The leaves were huge. I had to cut back lots of leaves, and look, the little fruits are coming on. They're yellow, which is really nice. And I gotta pull that off. It's a growing tip. And they're round, which is something I like. Now I crossed it with Winter Luxury Pie, which is more or less a pumpkin-like, but it's known for its smooth texture. And when you cross it with something like I crossed it with Feroce Delicate, that will change the flavor of the squash. Now I'm hoping what happens is the Winter Luxury Pie will bring in some sweetness to it and extend the longevity of winter storage. So it seems pretty harsh to remove all those leaves, but they were beating down my beans here, and in a couple days you won't be able to even tell. They're, I won't say mopey, but they're kind of bent over, and that's because they were laying on the ground more or less, and they're facing a different direction. If you know anything about plants, plants will follow the light, and so these will be upright and pretty tomorrow. So that's enough for this video. It's probably longer than I really intended it to be, but I like sharing. I hope you subscribe. I hope you like the video, and I hope you leave a comment more than anything else. I like talking to people. This is Brent, you guys. We'll see you in the next video.